Yeah, so I'm Ryan McCarthy. I'm the founder and CEO of the Passive Investor Network here in Houston, Texas. And, I put this presentation together. I've been really excited about it. It seems like every day, things are changing. And, having done this now for about 12 years, I don't know because I have no way of knowing this, but the period of time in my career, it just seems like the market, from the crash, from some of the recession we had here in Houston with oil, up and down with people coming into Texas. It just you know the only constant has been change, and um, you know we've had to work through that. And I've had experiences, early in my career where I wasn't able to, and I was able to draw from that experience to kind of put some things together. Hard won experience and making mistakes early on, where I wasn't able to adjust and didn't really realize, how much the market or how much real estate changes and how it moves. So I wanted to talk, about that. And like I said, as I was putting this together, I just kind of kept coming up with more and more things. So hopefully, I think I got everything in there that I want. But at the end, we'll do some Q&A and talk more about some of these themes, kind of in more detail. So today we're going to talk about the good news. There's good news. There's better news. Not really any bad news. Adjusting to the markets, kind of the things that that are very simple, to really kind of be able to be nimble, when you're investing in real estate. Talk about the goal, talk about the plan, and talk about current market understanding, which is pretty important. So, the good news: market's changing, things are happening. It's funny, in the beginning of the pandemic, nobody really knew, as is usual, what was going to happen. And the thing that kind of, I think, happened early on, where people were trying to figure it out. And when it started to shift, most investors just failed to adjust. Most individual folks kind of failed to adjust, and that, in every market that I've been in that has changed, even markets where I failed to adjust, right? That happens. Most investors fail to adjust, and what happens is everyone has a model, and they've used this model to kind of mitigate risk, to help their understanding, et cetera, et cetera. And once that changes, man, that model, people get shook. It takes them out of their comfort zone, right? So the good news is if we're able to adjust to a market, that market will then have less competition just by proxy. And it may only be, as is in the pandemic, it may only be for a short amount of time. But in that amount of time, we can actually get in there and be ahead of the curve, ahead of the pack. Price discovery, this is another thing, is made easier in a changing market. Now, the caveat is you have to know that market. You have to know what market that you're in. You have to very much understand your asset class. If that's the case, you could start to see better deals popping up. I'm seeing it now with this shift. I mean, almost like overnight, deals that were coming through were much better than they were a month ago, 2 months ago, in terms of equity, in terms of the cash flow, the locations, a lot of those things. Because I think, when the market constricts like that and people kind of jump ship, it starts to open it up. And it may, like I said, it may only be for a quick second, but for most individuals, you don't need hundreds of deals. You need one or two, three or four. I mean, if you're really in, maybe 5 deals within a 6 month to a year long period, and you can get in and get those deals because There's less competition, and if you know that your markets, price discovery is going to be a lot easier. Typically, this is something that's different, you know. There are 6 ways, and I've talked about this and other ones. I mean, it's not, you know, it's all plagiarized. I didn't invent the 6 ways real estate makes us money. Everyone talks about it, but the market has brought us another reason, and that's a hedge against inflation, and that's a huge one. That is to me, when you're looking at the math of what money costs, and it's funny, they said it's 8.6%. I saw a report on the inflation side. But if you look at gas, I mean, that's, 40%. If you look at groceries, I mean, that's 20, 30%. You go down the list, clothing, things, I mean, things cost more. And I'm not an economist, and I don't understand specifically how they get 8.6 when everything is double digits inflated. But, that is what it is. But a couple of the things is that, real estate is a terrific hedge against inflation. It's a better place for your money to be than sitting on the sidelines losing money from that inflation. So if you have money in the bank, it's worth 8.6% less than it was, a year ago. So if you had that in real estate, that wouldn't be the issue. And then the leverage piece of it, they're talking about interest rates and how interest rates they've skyrocketed, they've gone up. They've gone up from where they were in the pandemic, which was nuts, free money. They've basically come back to where they were pre-pandemic. Now, I don't know, they may go up from there. I think that, that's a slippery slope looking at what that could do to the economy, and they may do it. Who knows what the Fed's going to do, right? But in terms of real estate, being able to borrow money at 5-6% when inflation's 8.6%, there's a spread immediately. Forget about the cash flow, forget about the appreciation, forget about the equity capture. We got another way that we make money in real estate. So it's pretty exciting. The better news on adjusting to the markets, this is pretty simple, right? Only 3 things you need in order to adjust. And when I was putting this together, I had the title that was kind of my thinking of my experience over the last 12 years. And the only constant is change. But what I know is that there's only 3 things that you need. And I've seen, since I've been helping people do real estate for the last 7 years, I've assisted in probably 600-700 transactions for individuals investing in real estate up to this point. And it's been the same 3 things. Early in my career, it was 3 things that I didn't have. So this is also hard fought experience on my side, where I look back and I go, my God, I mean, I got lucky a lot. I was in the right place at the right time, making the right efforts, which is luck. But if I had these 3 things, I think, I'd be giving this presentation from a yacht somewhere, hopefully. But, these are the very simple foundations. And if you understand this, and if you're able to assimilate to it, it can be a very powerful thing in your real estate investing career moving forward. So let's talk about it. At PIN, at the Passive Investor Network, we call this the big 3. A current market understanding. We talk about, what is the real estate market? Everyone says, oh man, real estate prices, they're it's a bubble, da 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 da. Well, that's part of it. Interest rates are going up, so that means that nobody's going to be buying and pushing. That's part of it. The inventory levels, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm going to talk about here a little bit is how real estate is local. If it's dropping, even in the big crash, 2008, real estate failed in different levels locally. In some places like the coast, there were double-digit double digit losses in terms of values, right? But it wasn't the case in Texas, and it's because real estate is local, and all the factors that go into uh, what a real estate market is are different. And if you don't understand that, you cannot figure out what a good deal is, because a good deal in one market might not be a good deal in another, and vice versa. So we have to have an understanding of the market. This, I think, is shockingly, and for me personally, for me early in my career, when I was just a realtor, kind of helping some folks out, brokering deals, not really helping them on the details of it. Um, it's shocking how few real estate investors have a real goal. Now, most people's goal is like, I just want to have some real estate, or I just want to expose my portfolio to some real estate, or I just want to buy 10 houses, or I just want to buy an apartment building. I want to be, in commercial real estate. Those are all hopes and dreams, and they're good aspirations. And probably, anybody who's done that, over the last decade has probably did pretty well. But to my point earlier, when I was talking about when I first started having these big three, I didn't have a very specific goal. I literally just wanted to buy real estate because I thought it was a good idea. And I think that's for a lot of people. They just want to get in real estate because it's a good idea. But that takes away from what can be. If you have a specific goal and work towards that, and the understanding of the market, now every decision is predicated on what that goal and reaching that goal. So as these markets shift, as things change, as the out of pocket on these deals goes up, as cash flow goes up or values go down, doesn't matter. If you're sticking to your goal, you have a true north, and you're not rudderless in any market, because you know where you are and you know where you have to get to. And then taking action. Probably, you know, I think if we looked at it overall, the vast majority of why people don't reach their goals or anything in real estate is because they don't take action. They sit on the sidelines. And really what it comes down to, it's fear. It's the fear of the unknown. And that's, I mean, that drives us out of a lot of different things. But real estate, I think for me, maybe because I'm close to it, I watch people, they're fearful and they're not willing to take action along those lines. And most of the time, or well, what I see here at Penn, it's because there's no plan. It's very difficult. And I know this sounds pretty, easy to say. I mean, it's obvious, but I think if as an individual we think about this, if we have a plan, it is so much easier to take action. And if we don't have a plan, how can we take action? So these are the big three: current understanding of the market, a goal, a real goal, and we're going to talk about what that looks like, and taking action and executing a plan, putting a plan together, and being able to take action along those lines. So the goal. This, I think, is pretty interesting to me, is that I've sat with, hundreds and hundreds of folks of all walks of life, all ages. And once I can get them to understand that a goal is something that has to be quantified, the goal has to be quantified to where we can use math to back into the goal based on, some factors. And everybody I sit with, once they understand it, they want to be work optional. That's pretty universal, or they want to retire a spouse, or they want to retire themselves, or, not, like I said, not everybody wants to retire, and retire is kind of a weird word, for the landscape today. But work optional, I think, really fits. They want to make sure that they have, money to put their kids through school. They want to make sure that Clearly they have money to live their life and enjoy more years than not. It's pretty, it's pretty common, right? But what's interesting is that there's only really two levels of this, and it's either $5,000 a month of cash flow, passive income coming in, or $10,000 a month. And I mean, it's so strange that literally in everyone's mind, in hundreds of conversations, it's either $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month. It makes sense if depending on your kind of socioeconomic status, where you want to be along those lines. $5,000 a month, I think, for anybody coming in passively is definitely life changing. So that's the most common PIN member goal: $60,000 a year in passive income here in Houston. The median income is about 55,000 a year. So this makes sense why it hits that 60,000 number. Now, because real estate is you have the ability to depreciate the income. $60,000 a year coming in from a W-2 job does not net you as much as $60,000 coming in from from passive income. So a lot of times when we talk about this and they go, okay, I want to be work optional and I want to make $5,000 a month in monthly cash flow in order to be work optional. A lot of times it's actually less. If they made $3,000 a month in monthly cash flow, it would literally offset 100% of what they net after taxes on their W-2. But in order to be, kind of, very, very kind of specific today, we're going to talk, through just the $5,000 number, just for quick basic math. So the plan, the play-by-play. Once we have a goal in mind, then all we have to do really is back into the math of what that goal is. I mean, if we want $5,000 a month, then we just need to know how many cash flowing properties that we need in order to get there, right? Very simple. It's not real earth-shattering information, but a lot of people don't do it, surprisingly. So assuming average cash flow is $300 per month on a single family rental, 17 cash flowing properties would get us to our goal of $5,000 per month of passive income. Now, just so you know, PIN deals mostly in single family rentals. So this can play out on any asset class along these lines. But when we're looking at it here in Houston, here at PIN, we're looking at just the single family rentals. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different models that we work through. But 17 cash flowing properties would get to our goal of about $5,000 per month of passive income. Assuming we could buy each property leveraged with $40,000 out of pocket, which is roughly what we're seeing in Houston with the different lenders and the different price discovery in terms of equity, we can get a property for about $40,000 out of pocket, all in. An individual would need $680,000 to hit their goal. Now, if you're watching this and you want $5,000 worth of cash flow and you have $680,000 to invest, good news. You're done. You can hit your goal today if you're willing to go all in and take that risk. You can hit that based on that math. Now, here's what's interesting. Here's where that goal comes into play and is so important. If we don't have $680,000, which most folks don't. I mean, that's a fact. What do we need to do to get there? Now, here's a mistake that a lot of people do because they don't have a goal, or a lot of people make because they don't have a goal. What happens is they go out and they take a few classes and they hear cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Well, they go buy a couple cash flowing properties with maybe some low equity, because that's typical. On a yield property, there's not a lot of value, and they run out of money before they reach a cash flow that allows them to actually change their life. Now, a couple of cash flowing properties definitely helps. But if you have an idea of being work optional, you know, we have to be able to back into the math of what that means. And if we buy two houses and there's no equity there, we have no way to stair step to get to the point where we're actually moving the needle on our financial situation. I hope that makes sense. It's really important to have a goal so that we can execute upon that, because most people don't have enough money to go buy cash flow properties. It will be a longer process and it'll be an arduous process. So, the good news is you guys are listening to this, you're going to have a goal. So you're going to know, hey, I don't really need cash flow yet. I can't afford cash flow yet. I can't make that move. I need to bank some equity because I don't have the $680,000 that it would take in this market to get from where I am to where I want to be. So let's talk about that. Let's assume we only have $80,000 to invest. And it really, as we're going through this, I picked these numbers just for illustration purposes. It's just an example. It's predicated kind of on what we see here in Houston and Penn, but it doesn't matter. The math is the math. This is very simple. It doesn't matter what that number is. It could be 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 800,000. It doesn't matter. We have to start somewhere. So let's assume that we only have $80,000 to invest and we have to get to 680. We can afford to invest in two equity properties. Now, these are value properties. These are properties that probably aren't going to have a lot of cash flow. Now, I don't suggest going negative cash flow, but neutral cash flow for sure, right? To where it pays for itself. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about kind of mitigating the risk in these changing markets. But if you can hold a property where it pays for itself, you have a lot of options along those lines, especially when the equity is sitting there. So you can afford to invest in two equity properties. Now, using a 5-year time horizon, we could roll that equity until we reach our goal. Now, 5 years that's pretty aggressive to say that with my $80,000 today, I could be work optional within 5 years. That's pretty cool. And I've seen it multiple times. Now, it's your goal, so you can put whatever time horizon you like on it. But because I've seen it and because I know that it works and because I've seen people actually accomplish this, 5 years and accomplishing it myself personally, 5 years is a pretty good time horizon. And I think based on that experience, it makes sense. So let's look and see what that looks like. On an $80,000 investment, you take year one, you buy two cash equity properties, not cash flow. This is value play. So we buy two properties. And this, again, a year, 18 months, somewhere in there, it's negotiable along those lines with what you're comfortable with, risk-wise, what you're comfortable with, moving forward, and what you can, really handle time-wise. So, like I said, this is a pretty aggressive strategy. So taking these two properties that are $40,000 out of pocket, the caveat is that these properties have to have an unrealized capital gain that is 50 to 100% roughly of what you have invested in there. Not to mention principal pay down, not to mention appreciation, which is happening and probably, here in Houston, may or may not be plateauing. So this is day one. You've banked this equity based on an appraisal of this property. You have $40,000 and you've gotten a $40,000 unrealized capital gain. So in year two, the idea would be to take that, divest of those two properties, taking our original $80,000, and now we have $160,000. We could take it and go and put it in 4 properties and do it the next year and the next year, and start to probably have at that point, in your plan, a hybrid to where, you're taking some cash flow properties and you're probably getting banking some equity along those lines, right? To where you have that portfolio that is throwing off that money. Now, this is really important, and I know you're probably thinking, what does this have to do with changing markets? It's very important that we have a plan and we have a goal. So as markets change, we can make the decisions based on those metrics, based on those goals, based on that plan. Let's talk about the current market, current landscape. As far as we see it, there's a lot of things moving, right? We talked about interest rates, we talked about inflation. Who knows what's coming down the pike along those lines. But from our standpoint here, and if you're in a large market like Houston or Dallas or Austin, where Quest is, this is definitely happening. Inventory shortages. I think one of the things that hit me like a ton of bricks, and maybe I'm just simple minded, I never really considered this. They stopped building houses after 2008. They stopped building, and I know for Houston, I mean, we were going gangbusters for the early 2000s all the way up, and building these massive communities, thousands and thousands of houses out in the suburbs, and they just stopped doing it. And the population didn't stop. People didn't stop moving here. It's incredible, incredible. And I don't think we're even really grasping the inventory shortages yet, that have happened from the fact that we're not, because we're really still not building that much, to be honest, along the lines of larger developments. The inventory shortage is I think is going to be exacerbated, and that leads to the affordability crisis. I know, for Houston, getting a one bedroom apartment, it's even a little studio and not even a nice area, is about $1,000 a month. That means you have to make $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year, just to be able to qualify for those. And there's not that many of them, again, with the inventory shortages. So the affordability crisis, I think, is a really big part of what the current landscape for single family markets, and to some extent commercial. Remote work, this has been pretty interesting. Whether you fall on, you think that remote work is the future, it's definitely going to be. Nobody's going to be in offices anymore. Everybody's going to be working, from their offices and home offices, or WeWork, or, well, maybe not WeWork, but those sort of things. Anybody could live anywhere. So remote work is a pretty big, I think, factor when you're talking about single family rentals, and even obviously clearly on the office building and commercial side, that's going to be a big kind of question mark along those lines. So things that we're currently doing, based on kind of what we see as the current landscape. BTR, build to rent. This is the big buzzword at every conference you go to about single family, build to rent. We are doing mostly infill stuff, because what we see is, because people can kind of live where they want, and remote work is something, and even if they don't remotely work, they maybe don't work every day in the office. People want to live in places that are walkable. People want to live places where there's something kind of near them. Well, there's two things. They either want to live out where there's nothing, right? That's, out in the country where there's nothing, they're not worried about people, or they want to live where there's a lot of people, a lot of social activities. They could walk to those sort of things. Even in Houston, where nobody walks, people want to live in a walkable area, but they'll still drive, mostly, so far. So we're doing a lot of stuff in kind of the transitional areas closer to central business district, if you really want to call that, here in Houston. Just infill, build to rent. One of the coolest things that we started doing is about a year ago. We have a strategic partnership with Pad Split, and we started doing co-living properties where you take you have a house and put 8, 10 bedrooms in there, and you could rent it out by the room. And I've seen it. It's really really wonderful to see these folks who couldn't have afforded to live in these areas and really can't afford to live in like I said, a 1 bedroom apartment for a multitude of reasons. Being able to have a really nice clean space in what usually becomes a really nice community in these co-living pad splits, and they're really cool. We're managing close to 20, 25. I think we have 28 that are going to be online pretty soon. And it's been a really really cool journey to see that, and I very much think and SRO. That's going to be the new kind of buzzword I'm starting to see. Single room occupancy, SRO. It's coming, and with the affordability crisis, the municipalities are going to have to wake up to the fact that people need places, and they're going to have to open up. Not here in Houston as much because we don't have a lot of those issues, but Austin for sure, if they care at all about keeping their city weird or whatever they want to do, they're gonna need to figure out some better options there, and pad splits and single room occupancy SROs, co-living situation. I think is definitely something that we can do as individuals on the outside, not the government doing it. We could do this to stave off that affordability crisis. And then suburban developments. We're doing a couple of small developments, 25, 30 houses, where they're basically horizontal multifamily, which is cool because you get a lot of the benefits of multifamily, economics of scale, et cetera, and then you also get the benefits of single family rentals. And we feel like these things, if done properly, can be a great vehicle for weathering whatever change. If it's going up, if it's going down, doesn't really matter. We're putting into place something that is making sense, for the long haul, and helping people reach those goals and very specific goals that they have for themselves. It's a good quote. I love this. With Matthew McConaughey. I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or Jimmy Buffett. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Here's the thing. I think, my title was kind of tongue in cheek because of this. If someone's getting on there and telling you they know what's going to happen, man, you got to run away from that. Nobody knows what's going to happen in any market. People have maybe some ideas. I know that for the vast majority of folks, and I was actually looking at a couple things on Twitter with real estate Twitter. Guys were talking about, before the pandemic, they were dumping their portfolios because they thought, oh man, the crash is coming, here we go. And they couldn't have been further from the truth. So if someone's getting on there telling you they know what's going to happen in the market, I mean, I guess they have a 50-50 shot of being right, but I don't really want to base my life and my family's financial future on a 50-50. So big rule here, Penn, it's non-negotiable. Don't speculate. We're not speculating in this market. We're not putting some money down on a property or two thinking, okay, hopefully, this goes up in value, or hopefully this is a good deal. Hope is not a strategy. Invest in properties that make money today. This is the point. If you can buy a property that cash flows properly, predicated to your goal, and has enough equity predicated to your goal, whatever model you need, whether it's a value or a cash flowing property, it's not prospectus. It's not, in a year rents are going up, or if I could push it, I could get this, or if I could push the values, I could get this. No, invest in something that makes money today, and if it never goes up, it's still in line with what your goal is. If that makes sense. If the equity doesn't, if it stops appreciating, if the rents stop pushing, which I mean it doesn't seem like they are, but that doesn't matter. We're buying real estate based on what the values and what the rents are today. And use leverage, even in an IRA. I love, and I think it's genius. And we've done a handful of these at Penn. I love these non-recourse loans that you can get in your self-directed IRA, and Quest is definitely the best. They have the best folks to help you through that process, and partners that they work with to go through that process. Use leverage. Look, if the market does go down, let's just say all hell breaks loose and the market does go down. If we're leveraged properly, we're going to mitigate our losses. We're going to mitigate our risk along those lines. In 2008, across the board, it was a $10,000 depreciation. 10%. I'm sorry, not 10,000. 10% depreciation. We can weather a 10% if we're leveraged and we bought it properly. So use leverage. This is I think a big one, because you watch the news, you watch CNBC or Bloomberg or whatever, Fox Business, and or even the local news, and everyone's talking about the market. What's the market doing? Like I said, interest rates are going up. Everyone's thinking, oh my God, if interest rates goes up, that means that the real estate's going to go down. Commercial backed mortgage securities. I mean, all these things that are the hot topics, when talking about the market. That's fine. And that's good. It's good information and it's good to talk about. But I saw this, during in the crash. Markets are local, city by city, street by street. Invest where you are familiar or can become familiar. Learn a market area. There's if you can, invest in your neighborhood, invest in your town, invest in your city. There's no place that you're going to know better what's going on and having the finger on the pulse other than where you live, where how many people have driven by a piece of property and gone, man, I wish I'd have bought that. I could have bought that for nothing a year ago, and I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to go up. I knew that, it was going to make money. Why didn't I do that? And your area, your neighborhood, your city, your town very well. The other part is insider trading is legal in real estate. It's practically, with the government and, the local municipalities, a lot of people are in those positions for real estate. It is legal. Knowing something is not illegal to buy real estate. Find it. There's in Harris County, you can look at all the permits that are being pulled. You can look at the city council notes and you can see what's coming down the pike. Now, what Penn has done is we've created a network of individuals to where we're doing a lot of volume in these sub markets to where we can actually see the ebb and flow of what's going on. And we can go find these sub markets, a lot easier because we have, buying power rather than just, me as an individual going into a market. I can maybe buy one house, two houses. Whereas if I have 100 people behind me, we can go buy 20 houses. We're going to be able to see things in the market and again, have that insider knowledge that nobody else has. So get with your local groups, group up, talk about it, go attack a market together. And leverage yourself with other investors. They're not your competition. They're your friends. You guys, if you only need a handful of properties to reach your goal, find another couple other folks that need a handful of properties to reach their goal and go attack a market and go get some insider information. One of the things that I think and I gave a presentation in Quest. Actually, this was in July, I think, of 2020, my first Quest webinar. And it was talking about the Houston market, and the median price point for pre-owned inventory at that point was about $235,000. And I was talking about, oh my God, it's crazy. It went to 235 because only a couple years prior to 2020, it was under 200,000. It was pushing and pushing and pushing. And what I said was I thought it was still going up. Now, to be fair, I had no idea that it was going to go up, to the level it had. I want to be clear about that. I thought it was still pushing up and it would incrementally keep going market by market. But what my guidance was to the PIN members and in that presentation was, if we're staying underneath that median price, number one, we're going to benefit obviously from everything going up. But let's say something happens and, ostensibly the pandemic was supposed to crash the market. Let's say that happened. We'd be protected because we bought in those points below what the median home values were in our little submarkets. And that information for a lot of folks is pretty easy to get. Your local realtor, your local MLS can give those information. HAR has a great program, and I could pull that up. I mean, literally zip code by zip code, street by street, and pulling the median price point. Now we're looking at not only median price points of used inventory, which by the way is now $300,000. I gave that presentation in July. It was $235,000. It's pushing. I haven't looked in a while, but it was pushing $300,000 last time I looked. What I understood was they weren't building new houses under that price point or even close to that median. So any inventory that was pre-owned that was under the median price point immediately became very valuable because there wasn't enough of it and they weren't making any more of it. We're looking at now the median price point of new builds, which is about $420,000 here in Houston. We are getting homes built for about $275,000, $300,000. So again, using that same guidance to stay under those median price points so that if the market does go down, we're insulated along those lines. And with everything else that we're doing to mitigate risk, it should be fine. So that's it. I guess we'll do some Q&A. I really appreciate it. I hope I didn't go over time, but Zach,
that was perfect.
Awesome. Nailed it.
All right, guys, if you got any questions, please throw them in the chat. Take advantage of every opportunity you can right here.
Yeah, and also if you think of something later, I got my information here, Ryan at passiveinvestor.net. If you want to learn more about passiveinvestor.net, you can go to the website there and check it out. And I think we have a link. We have a bus tour coming up next Saturday. So if you're in the Houston area and you want to hop on a bus with us next Saturday and go look at some of the things I was talking about, the co-living pad splits, the BTRs, will actually be touring the city next Saturday. So you can come and get signed up for the bus tour on our website. And you also, if you're out of town, you can schedule a consult with one of our portfolio advisors through that website too. But if you just want to chat, you want to ask questions about what I've talked about today, it was a lot. I tried to get through as much as possible, but you can email me directly, Ryan at passiveinvestor.net.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
thanks, Zach.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to pull it down. So far, no questions in the chat.
I answered
guys, if that's it, then you saw Ryan's contact information, Ryan. If you want to throw it, I'm going to throw it back up there. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, shoot Ryan over email if anything pops up. Obviously, normally it's how it happens, right? The moment you walk away, that's when you got the question.
Sure.
So shoot him over an email, guys. If you got a specific IRA questions, give us a call. Get in touch with one of our IRA specialists. We'd be happy to help you. Ryan, thank you so much.
Zach, thank you, man. I always love doing this Quest stuff. You guys are a force. It's awesome working with you.
Absolutely, guys. So that's it. Let me go ahead and drop this down. Oh wait, looks like we got one.
Question.
Yeah, we do. So Joshua, here, let me drop off. Here, let me drop down. All right, Ryan, you can go ahead and pull your screen up.
Yeah.
So he said, I don't understand how you went from 2 houses to 4 houses with 80K to start. So where did you get the money for the second year?
Oh, you divest. Yeah, that's kind of it's a little bit longer presentation. I normally do it. So you take those two houses and you take whatever equity you capture, you divest. So in your first year, you have any equity you captured when you purchased the property, any principal pay down over that first year, right? And then also you have any appreciation that's come over that first year. So you divest. So you basically put them on the market. What we do here is we rent them for whatever period of time. So it's not a year. It's usually about 18 months. To make it simple, we say a year. So you have the rehab part of it, then you have a 12-month rental, and then you put it on the market and realize that capital gain, realize the principal pay down, and realize the appreciation. So the idea is to take that 80, ideally, and some of the BTR, well, all the BTRs that we've done this year, we've gotten 100% equity capture on those things. So our clients are out 40 grand, but when they divest them, and some people are going to rent them, some people aren't. They're going to just put them on the market immediately based on their goal. And they're going to be able to take their $40,000 and now they have $80,000, if that makes sense.
And then he's asking to divest or refinance.
It's a straight divest. Now refinance I like better because I've hated selling every piece of real estate that I've ever sold. I wish I had it. I mean, clearly over the last couple of years, it would have been nice to see those things push up along those lines. But this is the thing: is that this is why it's so important to have a goal, because refinance might be the best answer based on your goal. So the answer to that question is I'm going to come back and ask you, what's your goal? If you're, let's say, you have $180,000, now that changes the trajectory a little bit, right? So you got to have that goal, and that answers those questions very easily, because it just comes back to the basic math of, well, if I sell it, I'll get this much, and that'll push up to my goal here. Or if my goal is different, I could refinance, take some of that money, and go, put it into one more house, that maybe is a cash flowing or whatever the case may be. I've done both, and like I said, it's always been predicated on what is my goal. What do I have planned for that money?
Yeah. So looks like Teresa has a question. It said, could you take out an equity loan to capture that equity after 18 months, especially if the property is producing good income?
Yeah. That's absolutely. I mean, that's what you would be able to refinance it, take some money, put it back in. Like I said, it runs the gamut of a goal. And like if let's say you're at retirement age and you've looked at it and you could refinance that and pull, let's say you bought it cash, you can actually refinance that in your IRA, pulling some cash back to where maybe you're of an age where you can actually take some of that cash without having tax consequences. It just goes back to your specific situation. But yes, that is absolutely something that you can do. I would say, as long as I never want to negatively cash flow. I don't think I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to lose money every month. So, you need to look at the math of, if I refinance with maybe a higher interest rate at some point, or more leverage, or less leverage, I guess. So my payments have gone up, and I'm not cash flowing as well as I used to. You want to look at those things, but mostly if you're buying it right, you're gonna have the trick is the key. Other than having a goal, is to make sure that you can be invested in something where you have a lot of options. It's a good problem to have, to say, I have all this equity. What am I going to do with it?
Right. All right. Looks like that's all the questions for right now. Yet again, Ryan, thank you so much for coming out for us.
All right, man. Well, thank you, Zach, again, man. We love working with you. Looking forward to the event.
Absolutely. Yeah. That Quest Expo, it's going to be awesome. It really is.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys. If you have any questions, like I said, reach out to Ryan, reach out to, if it's IRA related, reach out to one of us here at Quest. Until then, you guys have a good weekend.
All right. Thanks.